Yeah. All right. So got that out of the way. Now I gotta share it with everybody. He's gonna be joining me here a little bit here, so it should be a good time. Should be a very oh, here he is right there. Very good time, I'd say. All right. Hey, what's going on, Mark?
Hey, Sean, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. I'm just getting stuff
Good.
ready here. Just so you know, I'm not trying to be too unorganized. I just
No.
wanted, I wanted to stream this live because I figure, well, this is the first time I've ever interviewed you on camera. We've done
Oh,
we've done audio stuff before, as you're aware, like in the
yeah, that's right.
past, but never a video interview. So it's kind of extra special, and
Well, I
because
have
of
a
your
face
book.
for audio.
Oh yeah, me too. Oh yeah, I've been told that. I know what you're talking about. It's that joke that all broadcasters get, the face for radio
Oh,
joke. Yeah.
yep, you bet.
Yeah. So how's it going, my friend? It's good to be able to see you again.
Well,
Oh,
thanks. It's going well. Like I have no way of knowing how the sales started off on the book, so I'm kind of in the dark about that.
okay.
But I've gotten a lot of great feedback so far, and people have started getting their copies, so I'm excited.
You picked a good time of the year to have it be released, around Christmas time. That's a smart move, my friend. That's a very smart move.
Yeah, it was actually by accident because I really wanted to have it out in early November, but then I didn't want to kind of compete with the elections. And and then I was having problems formatting um, the manuscript.
Uh-huh.
Kindle has such strict regulations and all, and but finally got it all worked out, and actually the release date worked out better this way anyway.
You didn't want to compete with the election, man. I tell you, if it would have came out during the election time, they would have. I think the sales would have probably been really high, because they would have wanted
Oh,
something good to read, something exciting to read while they're dealing with all this bullshit.
yeah, except I'm an unknown, so
Oh
it's
yeah, of course, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I've known very well.
Well, the
Well,
good news
yeah.
is I debuted number one on Amazon movie director is a movie director biographies.
Okay.
So
Wow,
that's not bad.
pretty good for an unknown there, my friend. I would say.
Yeah, I'll just be less unknown. You know.
Well, it's going to be exciting to have you on this interview because I've been looking forward to it for a while. Actually, I've been trying to get a hold of you for some time, but you've been pretty
Oh, that's
busy
all
and
right.
stuff with everything. No, I mean you've been busy, and then you had other things going on. I think the last time we spoke prior to the doing this interview was I think you were either working on the book or you were doing something else. There's another Goonies thing that you were working on, and I thought, well, we should have you on for that, but it didn't work
Yeah,
out or something.
I've been working on the book for about 14 months, so
Okay.
took a lot. And I didn't, I mean, I was amazed that it went that fast because I'm not a writer, by trade. So there were a lot of self doubting and angst and everything involved in
Sure.
that, which slowed it down a little
Okay.
bit.
Okay. Well, I'll do a little introduction to kind of introduce people to you and
Okay.
to my audience because we're out here well, where I'm located is northern Minnesota. So right now, as we look at the weather, it's 12 below right now today. I'm sure it's not that where you live, but here it's
Well,
12
the
below.
balloons are probably frozen.
I don't know. I just I knew that it was going to be cold today, but man, I tell you, it's like I'm surprised that it got that cold. But while it's cold outside, it'll be a nice warm interview inside here anyway. Good
Oh, good.
atmosphere anyway for
You
people.
bet.
Anyways, welcome to Renegade Radio. This special exclusive. Anyway, this is not the actual Renegade Radio show because, as you know, we ended season three here back on the 25th of November. We will be coming back for season four here on Monday, January 6th, 2025. And don't have a guest book yet for that, but it's just something that I'm working on. Still got some time, got a few weeks to brush out some stuff. But I want to do some interviews in between because I gotta stay busy, and if I get a chance to talk to guys like this, my friend Mark Marshall here, I'm not going to pass up the opportunity. I'd be a fool to do that. So, um, we got well, his name is Mark Marshall. While the name might not sound like a familiar name, but it should because he was kind of around and kind of helped create or help be a part of some iconic uh, movies in the film world, and especially with Amblin Entertainment. I mean, come on now, E.T., freaking Star Wars. I mean, freaking, you put the name on, Amblin, you think Steven Spielberg, and he worked with Steven Spielberg on a lot of different things. He's got a new book out called. Let me read it and get it good so I don't mess it up. I want to make sure I say it right. It's called Goonies, Droids, and Killer Whales. A man who has claimed that he is not an author, but I think once you read his biography, you probably think differently. My good friend Mark Marshall, how's it going, Mark?
Hey, Sean, I'm doing great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, no. This is great because you and I have some history because we've been I've interviewed you a couple times through the audio world back in the old days when people would pick up a phone and call and do an interview. But now that
Yeah,
we got Zoom and we got StreamYard and we got all these different ways to do video calls, I figure well let's just do something video wise because I do
great.
believe that I did interview you and we did talk and all that stuff back in those days. But it's like it's nice to have proof that you actually talk to the person. Well, like when people can see, then they're not filling you full of ridicule, saying you didn't talk to that person. You're full of shit and everything. It's like no, 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 no. Now I can prove it to you that I can walk the walk and talk the talk and whatever. And I know some people in the entertainment business. I always tell people
And
that.
I'm not a deep fake.
No, no, you are as 100% real as I can get. I mean, I don't know. I think people get mistaken. They think that everybody that's in the film industry, automatically rich. Like, no matter who you are, no matter what you do, and so it's like your life. Even though you get to do really cool things, and you got to do some cool things in your life, that it might have brought you a lot of wealth, and whatever. But like you're up there on the levels of Steven Spielberg, no matter what you did. Kind of that sort of
No,
thing.
yeah, no, to quote Groucho Marx, I've worked myself up from nothing to a state of extreme poverty. Um, and I mean, people like Steven, yeah, I mean, because their their talent is golden. But support people, they do okay, but the reward really is in the work that you get to do. I mean, I was very lucky to get to work in film. The thought of selling insurance, and nothing against people who sell insurance, but for me, being a Type A personality, the thought of sitting in an office all day and doing the same thing made me suicidal. So I'm so grateful that I had a
Uh,
chance to explore my creative side and to do something different every day.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, what you did in your life, was not just because of the book idea, but just, you had no idea how much history you were actually making, and how many lives you inspired and changed just by being a part of something, so huge and so iconic. I mean, it's unbelievable. You have left a legacy that you can be proud of, no matter if it's your work or somebody else's. They wanted you a part of it, and I only envy you because that's the dream that I always had of just didn't want to be a typical 9 to 5. I want to be somebody too that to leave a legacy, and we're trying with the podcast and other things, whatever. But I don't know if I'll ever be up to your level. You got a high
Oh,
high standard there, my friend.
I don't look at levels. It's it's just opportunities, and I was very fortunate. I mean, I was in I guess the right place at the right time. Someone said to me, you're like Forrest Gump, and at first I was kind of questioning why they said that, but
Uh-huh.
they just meant that he was in Forrest Gump was in places of history, and was a part of history, and I guess I'm a part of film history, so I'm grateful for that, and the fact that so many people have responded to the movies that I've worked on over the years is really gratifying. I mean, for for even the small part I played in it.
Sure, 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 sure. So let's kind of go back in history a little bit. Let's kind of start off with like your early, like when you're like growing up. Like what was life like before you decided that this was a career that you wanted to do, or was it always something
Well,
that you always thought about?
no, not really. Um, I grew up in Oklahoma in the '60s and early '70s, and a kid in my state didn't really ever think about movies. It was either oil field or agriculture or what one of the industries in Oklahoma. But when I was 9 years old, Christmas of 1966, my parents gave me a give a show projector for a present, which was made by Kenner. You may
Oh,
remember them
oh yeah.
with
I
the
I,
yeah
I
the
know
little
Kenner, but I don't remember the projections because I was born in '83, so I didn't really start understanding presents until probably about the '90s, probably or
oh
'80s or
you're a
'90s.
kid
Yeah.
you're a kid. Now the give a show was just a little plastic you know shaped projector, and it there were film strips that were 7 panels, and you would just simply feed it through, and the light would shine an image on the wall, and each image would be part of the story. So there were cartoons and things like that, but something fascinated me about that image, that and that frame, and so I spent my my parents would tell you I spent a lot of time in the closet because that was the darkest place in the house, and I could be alone and just watch those images. And it kind of became an obsession. And even though I outgrew the Give a Show, in junior high and high school, I was on the AV squad, and then two friends and I actually formed a production company in high school called MBC Productions. Stood for Marshall Baxter Campbell, and
Okay.
we made little 8 millimeter silent comedies for our youth group and things, and it just kind of blossomed from there. And then in 1972, John Milius, who directed Conan the Barbarian and Big Wednesday, came to direct a movie in my hometown called Dillinger with Warren Oates and Ben Johnson and Michelle Phillips. And I missed out on watching the filming because I got sick. But I got to go down one night. My dad took me down to see the sets. Took one of the local buildings and turned it into the Indiana jail that Dillinger escapes from.
Uh-huh.
And all those things, all those experiences just fed into my passion. And uh, I didn't know how to get into the movie business. I didn't, early on didn't know that people got paid to be in it. Um, so I ended up getting a voice scholarship and majored in music at my local university.
Oh,
But
okay.
after a semester, I heard Pavarotti sing and thought, that's it. There's no way I could ever get close to that. And did a few other majors. But then in the summer of 1977, I was accepted into a summer program uh, between USC and Universal Studios. And while I was out in LA for 6 weeks in the summer of '77, I met a producer named Howard Kazanjian. And Howard had just been asked by George Lucas to produce the sequel to American Graffiti. And at the end of the summer, I moved back to Oklahoma, but I stayed in touch with Howard. And then I moved out to LA permanently in '78, early '78. And
Oh,
every week I called Howard asking if he had an opening on the film. And he would say, no, call back next week. And as my friend George Campbell says, there's a fine line between persistence and stalking. So I always tried to be respectful, but was very persistent. And after 8 months, he called and had an opening for a film runner on the film to pick up the film, the negative, exposed negative from where they were shooting in Central California, take it to the lab, and then return it the next day.
oh, oh.
And it just kind of went from there, and met a lot of people and uh, did some networking, and had some opportunities.
So growing up as a kid in Oklahoma, did you do like a lot of the normal? Like, I mean, you went to school and everything. I mean, you pretty much had a normal life, like growing up, kind of, other than
Yeah,
your dream to eventually happen.
yeah, absolutely. And and one of the training grounds was the fact that when you grow up in a small town, small city on the plains, you there's not a lot to do when you're younger.
Sure,
So we did the proverbial, we'd play outside until the street lights came on and go home for dinner.
sure.
But my dad was a scoutmaster. My older brother Mike
Oh,
was a scout, and so we kept a scout trailer in our front yard, and it was just a two axle or one or two axle thing, but it became a magnet for the neighborhood kids, and it became a pirate ship or a Conestoga wagon. It even became the Batmobile, and we developed our imaginations. I think it's one of the things that we were really lucky to have that time, um, where we didn't watch a lot of TV, but we had to use our imaginations, and so it kind of helped develop that muscle.
okay.
But yeah, it was just a really normal thing. We explored our town on bikes and had we knew everybody, and everybody's parents were our parents. I mean, we
Sure.
my parents gave our neighbors permission to spank me if I misbehaved.
Oh,
It was
wow.
I gotta say it was kind of a Norman Rockwell existence.
Oh, sure, absolutely, and some of these kids nowadays have no idea who Norman Rockwell is, and I can
Yeah,
tell you as a
exactly.
I can tell you as a 41-year-old man that I do know who Norman Rockwell is because I grew up in a small town too, and it's like everybody lived, and even to this day, no matter how many, I don't care how many years can go by, time can change, we can all be robots for all we care, and they'll still
Yeah,
be the same way we were brought up in a small town by going to
absolutely.
church and doing the small town things and whatever.
You bet.
Did you have a pretty good relationship with Mike? Because I'm friends with him on Facebook, but I don't know him as well as I know you. Your
Yeah,
brother Mike.
Mike is a he's one of my heroes. He's a really good and honorable man. He reminded me of Superman because he told the truth. He
Okay,
stood up for people. He's a very moral guy. Growing up, I'm sure I was a pain in his butt, and so we fought a lot and
sure.
made each other cry and stuff. He's 4 years older than I am, so
Oh,
it was
okay.
just kind of that age where he would want to be with his junior high friends, but he would have to babysit me, or I'd have to tag along with him, and so I kind of spent my life making up for that. But he's a good friend. He's my best friend.
Do you have any other siblings too, then, or is Mike's the only sibling?
I do have an older sister who's 8 years older than me,
Okay.
and so, so I was definitely a pain in her side. Um, but no, but we're also super close right now. Even
Sure.
though she lives in Florida with her husband and Jeff, but Mike lives in town with me, and so it's a great time. I think you just naturally kind of get that rivalry out of the way, and then you settle into
Oh, sure.
um, yeah, a comfortable relationship. And since we're all old or
Yeah.
older now, it's kind of important to be able to spend that time.
So you can say that your siblings were pretty supportive in your career choice and everything back in the day, and even now,
Oh yeah,
after everything.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, that's
absolutely. In
good.
fact, both my sister and brother at one time lived in California. My brother was lived in Bakersfield. He was a youth pastor, and my
Oh,
sister was working for some company, I don't even remember, in Redondo Beach. So I got to see them a lot, and then my brother's family and all. So yeah, I had a lot of support even out there.
oh, that's awesome. See, I love stories like that because that's kind of. I think you and I are very similar in a lot of ways. Now, I'm not the baby of the family. I'm the oldest, so I'd be like
Ah,
your sister or whatever. But the age difference, the gaps are kind of the same. My brother is like 3.5 years younger than me, and I'm like 8 years older than my sister. about. So
Oh,
it's kind of opposite, kind of maybe, but kind of whatever, but almost similar. Uh,
yeah.
I feel like it's kind of like very similar to how my family is because they're supportive on this idea and everything. They want to see me be successful in anything. I currently my paid job anyway is working at a casino as a security guard, and I feel
Oh,
like as a 40-year-old man that that's not something I should be doing in my life, but it's the only thing that really pays bills right now, unfortunately, and I'm grateful, very grateful, as I'm sure you are for any opportunity you get too. But it's like I feel like that's a job for a younger person more than an older person. I feel, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
well,
Maybe
well,
I should be more grateful.
my grandmother said, grow where you're planted. And so I always kind of took that to heart, even though the film business is very it can be transitory. I mean, it can, you work and then you don't work. And
Sure.
but I always try to remember that and to stick with it. And no job is unimportant. I mean, every job is important in its way. And
Sure.
yeah, I'm sure you make a difference where you're working.
Oh, I like to think so. I like to call myself the class clown of the group because I always try to make everybody laugh, and we have some good conversations. As a security guard, we're allowed to, and sometimes we go a little crazy, but we don't try to go too extreme. But it depends on the day. Because we work the swing shifts, and we work 10-hour shifts or whatever. So it's like they're there a long time or whatever. I'm sure when you were in the film industry, as far as doing the stuff that you're doing. I'm pretty sure your hours were you were there long time, a lot of long days, I suppose, but it didn't feel like work at all much, or I'm sure some days it probably did.
The thing is, when you're doing something you love, the time is irrelevant, especially when you're young. Um, when you're older, of course, you start to feel it. But there were many times when I was working at Amblin that I would pull all nighters. Work one day, stay up all night, you know, xeroxing scripts, delivering scripts, and then the next day work the entire day. But I never felt it at the time. Had just a great time doing it. Um, I recount in the book that on the film Message in a Bottle, Warner Brothers, a schedule that was pretty brutal. Two different times where I worked 44 hours straight, and that's when I realized that's when I started feeling my age.
Okay.
In my 40s, but no complaints at all. I mean, it was such a privilege to be there. And when in the evenings, when I was working at Warner Brothers, I would walk the back lot in the evenings and just reflect, and that was energizing to me. That was like Superman going up and getting the energy from the sun,
Yeah.
and just feeling how fortunate I was to actually be right there at that time. So it was all good.
Oh yeah, no, that's pretty interesting because a lot of normal people that watch TV have no idea how long a project actually takes. I mean it could take probably anywhere between a year or two to freaking probably 6 months if you're doing the independent way, I'm guessing, or whatever, depending on your
Yeah.
budget and how big of an idea you want. Now, one of the other reasons why I wanted you on here too is because we've been wanting to talk about what most people probably don't realize unless you're a big film person like you and myself, that this is we're on the track of the 40th anniversary of the Goonies and how all that stuff got started and everything. I mean, I've been to Astoria a couple times back in 2008 and 2012, and I'm kind of planning on going back there one more time next summer. I have a friend that lives in Seattle or Everett, and so we're probably going to go spend a day in Astoria, hopefully, and because I feel like that's my town right there. You got to experience it while being a part of the movie set and everything. I love that town. That's a town that I would want to retire in. To be honest with you.
Yeah, and I was there actually for three films. I mean, I was there for Goonies, and then we went back for Free Willy,
Yeah.
and then Free Willy 2 we shot a little bit there as well. So Astoria is a very special place to me. And I made a lot of friends, uh, it's kind of a mecca for Goonies fans.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh
they
yeah.
make the pilgrimage every year, but we actually started shooting Goonies 40 years ago this past October, and the film came out 40 years ago this next June, and there's going to be a 40th anniversary celebration in Astoria. The 30th anniversary that I was a part of, actually, they estimated between 12 and 15,000 people from all over the world came into Astoria, a town of 10,000,
Uh-huh.
for a weekend celebration. So it's only grown in stature and legend, and it's a really beloved film. But we didn't really realize it at the time.
No, but I even talked to okay, the last time I was there in 2012, I was trying to set up an interview with Mick Alderman, because Mick was a local film guy over there.
Yeah.
I believe he still lives there. I think he's lived there most
Yes,
of his
he
life.
does.
And he also had like, did you remember working with him or seeing him at all? In part of it because he wrote a book about it, about his experiences with the Goonies, and that was kind of
Yeah,
his
yeah.
claim to fame in a way, because I know either it was on YouTube or on TV that it made some network anyway. They did like a little mini documentary on Goonies or whatever, and or Astoria, and he was a part of it anyway.
Mick's book is called 3 Weeks with the Goonies, and he received permission from Dick Donner to observe, shooting while we were in Astoria. Um, and Mick's a really good guy. I didn't know him at the time, but I met him during the 30th anniversary weekend, and he recounted some of his experiences. It's a very good book,
Yeah,
um,
oh yeah, I
because
read
there were a
it.
lot of things that I'd forgotten about that he kind of reminded me of. He's a good guy, and hope to see him in June of next year.
So, like, what are some of the memories of the Goonies? Because I can only imagine being a fly on the wall if I was old enough. Because I feel like there's always been a connection with the Goonies. That's why I really wanted to go to Astoria. Like some people wanted to go to Tampa, some people want to go to Hawaii, whatever. I find a dream vacations in Astoria, and I was so happy I got to go. What do you remember about those experiences that you had? Like in the beginning, like when you first were told this is where we're gonna go.
Well, the first experience I had with Goonies was when Chris Columbus was writing the script. He had an
Oh,
office on the second floor at Amblin, just down from Steven's office, and I was Steven's personal assistant at the time, and so I would see Chris all the time, and he was working on this secret project from Steven's idea, and then I got a copy of the script with a weird name called the Goon Kids, which then became the Goonies. But um, then I was involved with the casting sessions. I was running the video camera for Stephen and Dick Donner, and I remember the day that Sean Astin came in to audition. He was there at the end of one day. Had come in with his father, John Astin, who was Gomez Adams
yeah,
on Adams Family, and John had worked
absolutely.
with Sean on the sides. So Stephen told me to go out and get Sean and bring him back to the conference room we were casting. And so I went out to get Sean, and we were walking back to the conference room, and Sean was shaking. And I said, "You seem a little nervous." And he said, "Yeah, I am." And I said, "Well, there's nothing to be nervous about." And we reached the door, and before I opened the door, I said, um, "I don't know why I did. I don't know why I said this. I was in a weird way. I was trying to kind of put his mind at ease.
Yeah,
I just said, "You're about to meet the most powerful director in the world," and opened up the door. And he walked in, and he was so nervous. He said his name 47 times, and sat down and read the sides and messed up and said a swear word, and so I said, "Oh, you know what? I was having a problem with the camera," and Dick said, "Good, it'll give him a chance to do it again." So Sean went through it again, but he had the part before he even walked out of the room. He didn't know it, but Dick and Steven and Mike Fenton, the casting director, knew that was Mikey. So that kind of started a friendship off with Sean. And then they went up to shoot in Astoria in October, and I had a week's vacation coming, and I went to Stephen and said, "Would it be okay if I went up to watch him shoot?" And Stephen said, "It's fine with me, but get Dick Donner's permission." So I called Dick's office, the production office, and talked to Jenny Lou, his assistant, and said, I'd love to come up and just watch if Dick's okay with that. She went to Dick, and then a couple hours later, Michael Thaw, Dick's personal assistant, called me. I remember I was in the projection booth at Amblin, and Michael said, "Dick wants to know if you're still coming up." And I said, "Well, yeah, unless there's a problem." And he said, "Yeah, there's a problem." Dick said, "If you're crazy enough to come up, he's paying for the ticket." So Dick Donner bought my ticket, and I went up, and after 2 days, Dick put me to work. So I became a PA on the second unit when Frank Marshall was doing second unit work, and ended up staying up there the entire 3 weeks that they were shooting. Came home with the crew on a charter jet, and it was 4 years of film school in 3 weeks. But I got to be there when Stephen was directing the second unit, and watch Donner direct, and so and that kind of you know when you're location shooting number one, and then number two you have 7 kids, um, and a great crew, and other cast members, you become a family, and that family has endured for 40 years. Sean wrote the foreword for my book. He's on Broadway right now playing Santa Claus in Elf the musical, and
Wow.
it's just and I keep in touch with Jeff and Key, Corey,
Yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah.
talked to Robert Davi and Joey. Uh, Last year, I had a heart attack,
Oh,
and Josh Brolin texted me, and so did Carrie. So it's we are still a family, and we always will be. But those are the memories of the personal things are the ones that I remember most. There are so many things I've forgotten about about the shoot,
yeah,
although I do count some of them in the book. But
sure.
but yeah, that's what will stay with me.
Now, did you go explore the town at all to kind of get an idea of what you're dealing with, or did you have to kind of stick around with Dick the whole time when you're doing the movie stuff?
No, I'll tell you, it was just so busy that I never really left the set. In fact, um, Dick actually put me in 2 scenes in the movie, both of which were cut out. Not my fault, but
Yeah,
and Dick was one of those guys that he puts his staff and friends in his movies all the time, and so yeah, we I was always busy, and so grateful for it, because you learn by doing.
uh-huh.
And I learned not only how to do something, but the whys, and also the politics of situations and things. It was a really well-rounded education.
Now, when it comes to actually watching the film itself, now I know you probably have seen it hundreds of thousands of times just because you lived it and everything. But like they've come out, it was out on VHS, it was out on Laserdisc, I'm guessing, it was out on DVD and then Blu-ray, and then now just recently a while back ago or during the pandemic it came out on 4K. Now, I have seen the film, on many different versions, many different qualities, many different settings and whatever. I feel like the 4K disc for some reason really gives it, and I'm not just saying it because it's a 4K disc. I really feel like that to me is like the best quality version of the film, where everything just like looks like it's just like was just just recently made. I mean, do you agree with that, or are you kind of like, hey, watch it on VHS, it's still just as good?
Well, I'll tell you, first of all, it's the story that is so timeless that any you could watch it um on a ViewMaster, and it would
That's
still
true.
be
That's
good.
true.
Yeah.
That's true.
But and in fact, Bill Daly, who also wrote a foreword for my book, and is the retired senior vice president of post production of Warner's, and became a mentor and dear friend. Um, Bill just sent me the 4K Blu-ray disc of
Oh,
Goonies,
okay.
and I don't have a 4K player yet, or so
Yeah.
um, I I put it on just to see, if the image was improved, and it really brought tears to my eyes because it just brought back so many memories. I haven't seen the movie that much. Um,
Oh,
in
okay.
fact, I hadn't seen it for I think 10 years before. Well, the last time I saw it was when during the 15th or during the 30th anniversary,
Oh.
when they showed it at Warren Field in Astoria. Um, but I can review scenes in my mind all the time anyway, so
Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess I.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it just brought back a lot of memories, and Dave Grusin's music, the Mikey's theme always gets me.
Yeah.
Um, so, but yeah, I look forward to getting a 4K player so I can see it in its full glory.
I would recommend Panasonic. They come out with the best players. If you get yourself a
I was looking
Sony,
at one.
if you get yourself a Sony one, don't bother because most of the Sony ones, for some reason, when you play a 4K disc, and this is off the record, unless they've fixed it now, but I don't know if they have. It likes to freeze, likes to skip a lot.
Really?
I won't do it on Blu-rays, but on certain 4K discs, for some reason, it will just freeze, and you'll be enjoying a movie, and all of a sudden you're like, what the hell, and you think they're, oh, maybe I gotta clean it. It's like, well, why should you have to clean it? It's a brand new player. Yeah, it's stick with Panasonic. They're
Yeah, in fact,
actually
yeah, I
the,
was
the
looking
the
at
top.
Panasonic. Yeah, I
Yeah,
was looking at Panasonic on Amazon. So
yeah, they're pretty affordable. I mean, anyone that you like. I mean, I think the 421, I believe, the model, and that's like under $200, and I've had it for like 4 years now, and it
it's
has all
amazing.
has something to do with Chrome, something for with the 4K thing. It helps with picture quality, and as long as you have a
Yeah,
as long as you have a good display. Because I'm always, I get ridiculed a little bit about, being kind of a perfectionist when it comes to, televisions and stuff and watching stuff in good quality. But I want to watch stuff in good quality. The discs are out there. I mean, you can watch it on TV and everything, sure. But most of the time, if you watch it on TV, yeah, it'll be the same story and blah blah blah. But then they edit out certain words. Yeah, they rush it for TV time. There's too many commercials. I just want to
yeah,
watch the movie in its glory from start to finish in a high quality setting. There ain't nothing
yeah.
wrong with that. I mean,
Agreed.
I'm a physical collector anyway. Are you kind of a physical collector too, or are you just kind of a streamer as well?
Well, I've always, from my very first job, in fact, the first film I owned was on Betamax. It was on Beta. I
Okay.
had a Betamax player that I bought while I was at Lucasfilm, and I bought Superman the movie, and it was 89.95 at the time. Remember when they first were
Oh,
introduced?
sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I've always been kind of a physical media person. Um, I had a financial guy tell me to invest in CDs when I was younger.
Oh,
So I
sure.
had a great music library, but was broke all the time. I
Yeah.
didn't realize he meant the other CDs. Um, but yeah, no, and there's something, very, you feel very secure owning physical media because it can never, streaming can go away, um, internet can go out, but
Yeah,
you'll always have a disc to show.
that's
So
right.
I graduated from Beta to VHS to Laserdisc to DVD and then finally to Blu-ray. And
Cool.
I have a decent sized library.
That's actually good words coming from a guy like you because nowadays they want to take they want to take physical media away from us and make it a lot harder. A lot of stores aren't selling it as much. I mean, Walmart still does, but like Target used to be the place. Hell, Best Buy used to be the place. I never shopped at a place called Fry's or Amoeba Music or whatever because
Oh
we don't
yeah,
have those around here. But like all these little Suncoast and malls and all that stuff they used to sell, no, it's like they just want us to stream now, and it's like, don't you realize that in a lot of cases you don't own the material that you're streaming that you're paying for,
yeah.
digitally? I mean, it's cool, it's great, but it's like I just want to own stuff. What's wrong with that?
Yeah,
So coming
they
from
can
you,
take it away at
that's
any time.
yeah. I'm glad that you know that because there's probably some people around there that are in your line of work that probably say, stream it. Stream is fine. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I share some of the physical media with my nephew all the time, and it's I don't want to say, oh, I'll send you the link for streaming or whatever. No, you just give him the disc and let him go home and watch it. Um, so and there's a quality too about it. The one thing I do miss um, on with DVDs and Blu-rays is remember when they used to do the big supplementary sections and had all the behind the scenes and things like that,
Yeah.
the Criterion
Yeah.
collections
Oh,
and
sure.
all and such care was taken. I was in on several sessions at Warner Brothers Home Video. They Warner Brothers Video Operations was actually on the lot for years, and so I would go in when they were restoring discs. Warner Brothers bought the pre 1960 MGM library,
Oh.
and I went in one day and they were actually restoring The Wizard of Oz,
Oh,
and
wow.
they had made a dye transfer print from the original negative, and it was a beautiful print, and that's what they were transferring, and it was just amazing the sound and the picture, and they're breathing new life into these old films that have deteriorated and had mono sound and
Yeah.
things like that. So I love the fact that they're still doing that, but I
Uh-huh.
do wish they would include more extra material.
Um, were you ever a soundtrack guy in your CD collection? Like bought soundtracks?
Oh yeah, I had at one point, um, I had was it 3,000 soundtracks? I
Wow.
but I had the advantage that I knew a lot of music editors,
Sure, sure,
and
sure.
they had access to soundtracks that I only dreamed about. So I would get discs from them once in a while, and built up a good library, and um, I still listen to soundtracks all the time.
Okay. See, because what I'm kind of wondering is like why they don't, why they don't do that as much anymore. Even for digital copies, like that, they'll come up with a playlist to listen to, but it doesn't seem like it's official. Like compared to buying it on disc, when every time a cool movie would come out, oh, you gotta get the soundtrack too. It's available on CD or cassette.
Oh, I could hardly wait for Tuesdays at Tower Records,
Yeah,
because that was when the new releases would come out, and so I would go down and I'd walk out with, well, I'd pay for it, but I'd
yeah, yeah,
walk out
yeah.
with four or five new soundtracks, and uh, there's something about being able to hold that in your hand to physically put that in a player and to open up the booklet
Yeah.
and see who did what, and yeah, you don't get that with streaming certainly. So it's
Oh, I
become
don't
more
know.
impersonal
Yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah. No, I
in
know
a
what you
way.
mean because even like Walmart on Tuesdays used to be New Movie Tuesdays, and my Walmart around here don't have hardly anything half the time. They don't like they'll have the banner out saying, oh, like they did this for Beetlejuice, the new Beetlejuice movie that just came out. I was
Yeah,
looking forward to purchasing it at the store rather than going online because I don't mind going online and buying things, but I'd rather just buy it at the store. That's the whole point of going shopping. You buy what you buy what you want because it should be available. And I know they had it in
yeah,
the back, but the guy didn't want to go get it. So I had to
yeah.
wait. And so I went on eBay and that's where I get most of my stuff anyway because I get it cheaper. And I haven't even opened this yet, but I got the 4K of the Steelbook of Beetlejuice, the new one,
Oh
the
wow.
brand new one. So it's a pretty good, I don't know. Were you ever into the Beetlejuice life too, working for Warner
I
Brothers and
I
stuff?
haven't seen the second one. I like the first one, but I haven't seen the new one.
Oh, it's pretty good. I mean, it's different. You have to really watch it, or you're gonna miss like if you like. Well, I mean, you can pause it obviously because you can pause this or whatever. But like, if you like were to go to the bathroom or leave the area and have the movie running, you definitely miss out on a lot of key things in the second one. But no,
Yeah,
I just and for me, I also believe if you're gonna have a nice setup, if you're gonna go the route of physical collecting, and I don't know how we got on this subject, but I think it's interesting because you're definitely what somebody that I can relate to because for me, I like to have a big screen because now big screens are more affordable. You can have a 75-inch TV, and it's no big deal. It's not going to cost you $4 million. Like we all thought back in the day, like, oh, I would never ever have a chance to have a big TV. I'll always be stuck with these small TVs. But now everybody can get a big TV, and and
Yeah.
and, and not only that, but like a good TV. I just bought a 55-inch in my bedroom anyway, a mini LED TV from
Mhm.
TCL, and to me, that's probably some of the best picture I've seen in a very long time. It actually makes everything look good, better than it's supposed to, probably because I watched the movie Thrashing on Prime Video. Josh Brolin's like next movie after he did the Goonies or whatnot, the skateboarding movie, and they remastered it pretty good on Prime, but it looked like it was very colorful. I mean, everything
Wow.
looked like it was 1986 time in California. So, but it looked really, really good. There was a little grain, a little bit, whatever, but it looked really, really good. And that was just from the stream. It wasn't from the disc or whatever, but that was just it looked really, really good. So, I recommend people buying stuff like that because this TV only cost me like $550, from Best Buy. We have a Best Buy like 45 minutes away from where I live. And then I think that the best to complete it is you got to have a surround sound. You know, People like sound bars. Most people do. I like a big old setup because I'm old school like that. With speakers because back during the pandemic they told us not to go anywhere. Don't go nowhere. Can't go to the theaters. Can't do this. Can't do that. Well, okay, fine. I'll finally do what I said I was going to do a long time ago and create my own home theater. And now I have that after many years of saving and planning and building and all that stuff. And it's pretty. When people come over, they see it and they're like, "Man, I wish I had that." Oh, maybe someday you will. Because I mean, but is that kind of what you do too, kind of, or are you just kind of like, yeah, I'll just watch it from the TV or whatever. I mean, not to judge or anything, because I know we're supposed to talk about the book and everything, but I'm trying to learn about you too and what you like when you watch movies, because you do that too.
Well, being a post production supervisor um, made me very acutely aware of sound formats and all. And I was there at Warner Brothers at a time when we would cram four different sound formats onto a piece of film.
Sure.
There was Dolby SR, and then there was Dolby SRD, which was spectral recording digital. Then there was SDDS, which was a 6.1 channel sound format. Then there was DTS, which was used for Jurassic Park,
Yeah.
and you had a separate disc CD that played at the theater that synced up with the film, and each of those formats have their strengths and weaknesses. But it made me really appreciate how important enveloping sound is. I mean, Star Wars was such a huge. I think part of the success was because Dolby was used and it enveloped the theater,
Sure.
even though it was just kind of fresh. And so that became sound became very important to me. And yeah, I mean when you have all that and then you go home and you watch a television with a little speaker,
Yeah.
it just makes you feel like you're missing half of life. So yeah, I love um, Dolby formats, and now there's Dolby Atmos
Oh yeah.
and the audio world, the receivers and things have kept up with the Hollywood sound formats, and it's great. I mean, it's you can get better sound sometimes than many of the theaters because the theaters just don't take the pride in picture and sound they used to.
And the fact is that there's a lot of people that go to the theaters because they don't really care about where they sit, where they what they hear. They just want to be entertained for a couple hours and then go on with their life. But people like you and me, and most of the people that understand film and audio and all that stuff, we're there because like for me, like if I go to a movie, like I don't know if you've ever been in this situation before. You go to a theater and there's not many people there. I always try to look for the sweet spot, which to me is like right in the middle Like
Yeah.
that's you gotta be right in the middle because not only is it the best viewing angle because of how everything's kind of like in a row, kind of like at an angle, kind of like when you sit, but the way the audio is because most theaters now have their own type of surround sound compared to
Yeah.
back in the day where they only had front sound, that's like mono sound or whatever. Now they have the whole thing, and some have Atmos and all that. The theaters that I go to at least have pretty good sound, but I always try to look for the sweet spot. Is that kind of how you are too when you go to the theater, or do
Oh,
you just
oh,
kind of
definitely.
okay?
Yeah, definitely. One of the stories I tell in the book is that while we were doing the scoring for Free Willy 3 in Toronto, um, Bruce Botnick, who was Jerry Goldsmith's music mixer and a lot of other composers, um, came up to mix Cliff Idleman's score, during the scoring session. And he got in the night before, and we were both staying at the same hotel. And right across the street, they were showing a reissue of The Empire Strikes Back. So Bruce said, "Hey, you want to go?" And I said, "Sure." We went, and it was packed out. We got into the theater. We were kind of in the middle, and the movie started. And within 2 seconds, Bruce said, "The center channel's out. The center speaker is not working." So we went and talked to the theater manager, and he said, "Oh yeah, we know about that. We have an engineer coming in next week." And Bruce and I were incredulous. I mean that they didn't care enough to try to get it fixed right away, and so that people could enjoy the full experience.
Yeah,
And again, that made me aware that theaters around the country, and sometimes I don't know about Europe, but in this country, um, they get by with what they can. The screens are dimmer than they should be. The sound isn't working properly, and it's just you spend anywhere from 10 million to 150 million or 200 million or more on a movie,
yeah,
and you work
yeah.
on it for years, only to have it ruined when it comes out in the theater. So it's frustrating, and that's why I was so appreciative of what George Lucas did with the THX alignment program,
Oh,
because
sure.
you had to meet certain specifications before you could get any of their films. So I was always appreciative of that.
My biggest pet peeve too is almost similar to what you were talking about with the audio because I could tell that happened when we were watching Ghostbusters Afterlife. The second day that I was watching that, I could tell that the center channel was out, and a few other people could tell too because there wasn't a packed house for that. But it was just like the fact that people are that are understanding that you can barely hear the center channel. That's the most important channel
Yeah.
of everything. What was it like for you then? Was it pretty just muffled and everything when you were watching? Like you could barely hear what they were saying, or could you hear nothing much at
Yeah,
all?
we ended up not staying because like I
Oh,
said, Bruce knew right away, and you could obviously tell, like you said, that because the center channel carries dialogue
yeah.
mainly, that there was no point. So, but what amazed me was that the rest of the audience stayed. I guess they paid their money, and
Yeah,
and they were going to see it regardless. But I just couldn't help but think they'd come out thinking, well, that wasn't as great as I thought it or it used to be, or whatever. Um, so it's and unfortunately, you can get better quality, a better quality presentation in your own home now.
yeah,
Uh, Even the downside, of course, is the distractions and everything else, but um, at least you have a great sound. I just miss I miss going to a theater and having 300 to 400 strangers have the same reaction as me.
sure,
Um, and I got to experience that in the 70s and 80s and sometimes into the 90s. And I don't think we even have that anymore. People are busy looking at their phones and other distractions, which
sure.
distract me.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean that's why they try to tell them to seem to try to eliminate the noise, and don't have the phones on. But there's people that still do. I mean, I'm a creature of habit too. We watched a buddy and I went and watched Red One last night over in the East Grand Forks, and uh, it was a good movie. It was funny, better than I thought it was going to be. That's the one with The Rock and Chris Evans, who was Captain America,
Yeah,
where they're trying to save Santa Claus and everything. And there was a good message and everything. It was a good holiday film. I didn't know it was going to be that great, but there was a couple scenes where it just kind of got like little like, and then I just started watching the phone, looking at the phone, and I'm a creature of habit when it comes to that. Depending on if a movie is starting to bore me a little bit, I'll do that. Or maybe it's just because we're in a darker setting and it's like, it's nice to have a little light sometimes, because I know how to like hide it too or whatever, so it's not distracting anybody. But most of the time when I go to the theaters now, yeah, the problem is not enough people are going to these. They're going to most people are creatures of habit, and it's sad because and maybe this is why this is the way it was back in the day, because most people only care about the blockbusters. They don't care about the little films around here. The ones that are like the Saturday Night Live movie. I know that's not anything that you worked on or nothing, but it's like that just came out in October. I went and watched it in East Grand Forks. It was great, but there was hardly anybody there, to appreciate what Jason and Ivan or Jason and his partner put together, and or Jason Reitman anyway. And it's like I don't understand why people only care about the big films. Why? I mean, we don't live in an area where we do Sundance or whatever, or where people come and do like the award ceremonies and all that. We're in northern Minnesota, or part of North Dakota. We're farm people around here. We're a small town as small town can get. I'm surprised we even have ValleyCon and a little bit of conventions in Fargo, because they do bring Hollywood acts over there, but it's
yeah.
like that is a very small though, so it's I don't know. You're lucky because even in Oklahoma, I'm sure with the history of film that goes around over there, because there's been a lot of stuff over in Oklahoma even. That was going to be my next question. Do you ever like have you been to some conventions before, or did you ever go to Comic Con and all the big one and introduce people to yourself and your work and all, or are you just
No,
kind of
I've never been invited to. Well, I take that back. I was on a panel once at LostCon in Los Angeles, a Star Wars panel that my friend Craig Miller, who was a publicist on at Lucasfilm, invited me to be a part of. But other than that, I've never been at a Comic Con. Never really had a reason to
wow,
to go. I mean, as at least to be able to present anything or be a part of something.
okay,
And I'm not great with big crowds. So
oh, okay.
yeah, so well, I mean, no, I like people a lot. It's just
Yeah.
it's big crowds, So I uh haven't had a chance to do that kind
Okay.
of thing at all.
I would have thought that would have been a good opportunity, especially now that you wrote the book and everything. I mean, hell, you got something that people could definitely what people would buy because there's a big fan base for everything that you've been a part of. Everything, you know.
Well,
I mean,
yeah, I mean, maybe it'll happen
yeah. I
now.
mean, yeah. Now that people know about it online, because what did you say? You're the number one book of the month or the week or in sales or
It was the number one in a certain category in movie director biographies. I actually beat
okay.
out Christopher Nolan, Quentin Tarantino, Barry Sonnenfeld, and my old boss Steven Spielberg. So
That's amazing. That is amazing. So Mark, for everything that you've done in your life, and I want to first of all just say thank you for giving me time to chat with you and everything. We
oh,
kind of
my
went off the
pleasure.
wall a little bit, but that's what we do on the show a lot of times. Even on my actual show itself, we improvise. We don't really come up with questions. We just ask whatever, and hopefully
Those are the
some of
best
these
kind of shows.
yeah, well, I mean, I want to ask stuff that maybe you haven't been asked or whatever, and then of course, there's those typical questions that everybody asks. But you've been interviewed a few times, I mean, and now that you're doing this book, I'm sure there's a whole lot of people that want to interview you. I would only imagine, and if they don't,
I
if there
Give your
isn't,
lips to God's ears.
if there isn't, then they should be ashamed of themselves because you're an interesting person. I think if we knew each other in real life, as far as not just online, I think we'd be best friends right now.
Well,
And
maybe
we,
we'll meet up sometime.
yeah. Uh, my question that I ask a lot of people, when it comes to especially the ones that have kind of come to their well, I'm not saying that your career is over, because I don't want to talk like that. I want, because I'm guessing there's other projects that you can probably do or you have done or whatever that you don't talk about. But what is the legacy that you want to be remembered for?
Oh gosh. Well, when you reach the third act of life, like I have, you kind of start thinking about that. It's amazing. My last studio film was in 2004,
Okay.
and but in the meantime, I've actually had a chance to. I just executive produced a film for an Australian director, and the film is called Ancestry Road. We're working on a distributor now. I'm a consulting producer on a documentary called Life After Goonies. It's one of a series of documentaries that Lisa Downs
I've
has
heard about
done.
that. I've heard about
Yeah,
that.
Life After Flash, Life After Navigator,
Yeah.
um, Life After Neverending Story. She's also working on Life After Goodfellas and Life After Grease. So
Wow.
she's a busy woman. But so I'm kind of doing more intimate projects that I want to do, which is nice. But as far as legacy, my gosh, it'll be a small legacy if at all. I just maybe I can encapsulate it this way. The reason I wrote the book is because my godson Travis, who's in his 30s now, said several years ago, Uncle Mark, I just want, you should write a book. I want something to remember you by when you're gone. And so I hemmed and hawed, and I'm a great procrastinator, um, and finally started working on an outline, and then started working on the book. And the more I worked on it, the more I remembered, and the richer the memories came. And I think the thought that I want to leave people with is that um, I don't boy, it's hard to put into words. When you make a movie, when you work on a movie, first of all, you hope it makes money
Yeah.
for the studio or for the production company. You want, and if it's something that's remembered past its release date, then that's also great. But when you have something that lives on, like Goonies or The Empire Strikes Back or The Color Purple or Harry Potter, um,
Sure.
it becomes something that um, you pass on, even though you're a small part of it. Maybe you're passing on a legacy to future generations. And as they say, film is forever.
Yeah.
So the legacy is just the part you played in making magic that stands the test of time and also impacts people personally. Free Willy, we were getting letters for years from adults saying, "I saw Free Willy when I was a kid, and it made me want to be a marine biologist." And
Oh
they
yeah.
graduated from as a marine biologist, and now they're working in for some of these marine organizations and things like that. It goes beyond film, and it kind of touches you personally. So that's probably a
Okay.
long bad answer, but
No, that's
that's
good. That's
you
good because that's kind of what I was looking for. Somebody to be inspired by something that you were a part of. I mean, Mark, you gotta not be too hard on yourself because you're part of history, and maybe you'll never understand it. Maybe you'll never understand that, and I get the being humbled and everything. I understand that because we're all humbled, but you got to do something that most of us only dream of doing. And they could have picked other people to work on their projects, but they wanted you. For some godforsaken reason, they wanted you. And you're the person that made it happen. And talking about Harry Potter, I totally forgot about Harry Potter. I mean that you were part of the first Harry Potter. I mean I love Harry Potter. I'm starting to get more into it because I bought the 4K of it just not too long ago when it came out, and I'm more of a fan of it now than I was when it came out because I understand it now. As an adult, you appreciate more of what you did than when you were probably there at the time. And that's probably what it is. Maybe you being so hard on yourself now is you don't like the credit that people give you. You don't like when somebody comes and just says you're a legend. You know. somebody will come up to you and say, "Dude, you're a legend. I don't care what you think of that. You're a legend." And people will tell you that, and you're just like, "I'm no legend. I'm nobody." Well, I call myself nobody too, but it seems like some people are trying to call me not a legend, but like a public figure status for some reason, just because I'm trying to do something that I love. And you got to
Yeah.
do something that you love. So, I'm humbled to be with you in your presence, no matter what. I don't care. Take it all any way you want. But Mark, I really do appreciate you spending some time with me. Um,
Well, it's my pleasure. Let's meet up sometime, and even if it's the maybe at the Goonies 40th, and we'll sit down and have some iced tea and catch up.
Absolutely. I mean, if that might be maybe even better. Do you know what day they have it planned for? Is it going to be the 8th or the
June,
ninth or?
June 5th to the 8th next year.
Okay, okay,
June 7th was the actual release date, and the Chamber of Commerce actually contacted me about possibility of doing a book signing at one of the local coffee houses there.
okay.
So that may be part of the program. I'm not sure.
Well, what that might be an idea because thing is, like, I haven't officially planned my vacation yet. I'm just been in the thought process of it. But I think that might be something now that I know that they're doing it because I thought they stopped doing the yearly
Well,
thing.
well, they did in 2020 because of the pandemic, but also Warner Brothers kind of pulled the licensing, and they're not kind of releasing it again until this summer, this next summer after Goonies
Okay,
comes out. I guess they're gonna. I don't know if they're gonna do a reissue or what, but uh, yeah, and people still make the pilgrimage every year. It's just
oh
the
yeah,
5 year anniversaries that draw the crowds, and the 40th is going to be one big party. So you should
okay.
definitely be there.
I think I might try and make that happen because
I
that would
hope
be
so.
awesome. That'd be awesome. Maybe I might just have to change my trip ID. Well, see, that's just the thing. I don't know. I'm sure it's going to be so busy where there won't be no hotels. So I'll have to talk to my friend about that and see
Yeah,
for
they're
sure that
filling up
we.
fast.
Yeah. So for anybody that wants to know more about you or order your book, how can they do that?
Go to Amazon.com. It's Goonies, Droids, and Killer Whales. And if they want a signed copy, they can go to my Facebook page by the same name, Goonies, Droids, and Killer Whales. And there's information on how they can get a signed copy if they want one.
Okay, that sounds good. I might have to send you my address to see if I can get a signed copy because I would love
You bet.
to have that.
You bet.
That'd be fun. All right, my friend. Well, thank you for the interview, and again, you'll always be a legend in my mind. So
Oh,
keep
well,
being
thank you,
legendary, my
Todd.
friend.
Hey,
All
it's
right,
always a pleasure to be with you, and we'll hopefully see you soon.
I hope so. Absolutely. We'll take care, my friend. Thank you
You
again.
too.
Bye.